written by Murphy here with a book review of Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as if Your Life Depended on It by Voss. This is a business book. It's not fiction. This is business, and it's a business book clearly about negotiating by a guy who was a FBI hostage negotiator. I've read a lot of business books about, the art of the deal, selling, and they're fine. They give lots of tips and excellent, tools. It's great. But this one had so much more juice because he had stories about how he would negotiate for hostages. That's a lot more exciting. That's a lot more blood pumping. And the thing is, never split the difference. You don't say, okay, set half the people free. No, you can't split the difference. You need to go all the way. So this is really good stuff. It was exciting and it had a million tools. Now, here's the thing. I don't reread books very often. Certainly not business books. This one was so good. I have a hard copy coming to me, and I'm going to practice the techniques that they use in it, that they recommend in it. I am totally going to practice all of them and get good at them because, oh my gosh, this is gold. All right. They talk about speaking skills, like ways to actually speak to people, not just really what? No, very specific things like mirroring to get them to keep talking like you want to when you're trying to keep a kidnapper on the phone. Keep them coming along with you. They say things like the magic moment is when the opponent, your negotiating opponent, says, "That's right," and you don't want to actually agree with their worldview, freaky worldview, that all the time, but you want them to realize that you understand it. And that's where you get to the "that's right," and, which reminds me of improv tricks, the yes and. This one, though, reverses the improv in another area because they're saying, get the person to say no. Lead up through several no's to get to the final yes. That people are dying to say no. They want to say no. I never realized that. I didn't think about that. Simple things like, instead of saying, "Is this a good time to talk?" Then people goes, "Well," you can say, "This probably isn't a good time to talk." Then the person will say, "No, this is fine," because they will want to defend their image of themselves as being available. And so they say, "No, I disagree with your assessment of my time to talk. I decide that it is okay for me to put aside the crossword puzzle I was working on and talk to you." Get them to say no. I never heard that before. That's fantastic. These are skills I totally want to use all the time. Okay. So these are some just regular speaking skills, just regular, stuff that I could use while talking to people who are in my life, work people, family people. But then he has some major other skills, like how specific formulas for how to get the best out of a contract negotiation to get the best price, and how to get the best price out of a job offer. I'm like, oh, it's so amazing. He uses this phrase I hadn't used before. You want to get to the win-win, right? Yeah. He says, you don't want to get to the wimp win. You're like, well, we agreed, and because I wonder that all the time. When I get a job offer, I'm like, well, I'm happy with it, but I wonder if I'd done this or that. I don't know. I don't know how to do that. It always feels like it's good enough just to get the offer at all and get the job. He's like, no, there are these skills, and you do this, and then you lead, and all these really significant, super practical. I'm like, I clearly need to read this book every day and practice everything, and my life will be so much better. I will be a master. Really good book. I loved it. I love that it was so exciting. I love that it was incredibly specific and practical. I liked this guy telling me crazy stories about negotiating, and some of them were straight up, death on the line, and some of them were like, hey, this guy wanted to buy a piece of property, and this is what he did to run run the negotiation and get the most information he could from the person he was buying from. Like, oh, wow, that's really masterful. Let's see. I really like this one. I'm going to get it. I'm going to read it some more. It was great. What do you think? Do you feel like you understand negotiating? I don't. But now I feel like I have some tools. If I practice, I could learn. In fact, I'm like, I want to go try to get a job offer just to see what happens. I'm sure I'll have that opportunity soon enough. I'm happy where I'm at, but wow. So groovy. Okay. Totally recommend this book. It was fun to hear on audio, and I'm going to practice all these skills as soon as I get that hard copy. What do you think? Let's keep the conversation going.